Did you ever wonder what would you do if your gimbal was too strong for your camera? My camera is a Sony A5100, and when I bought the Weebill-S gimbal from the shop, they couldn't balance it because they said it was too light. But I had already paid for it, and so I couldn't really get my money back for a cheaper version. So I brought it back and I tested it out, and I struggled to get it to balance. And I found out that when it is not balanced correctly, the battery life will be only 1 to 2 hours. It will strain without any shakes and all that vibration. But in the end, I realized that that is not the solution. So I tried some weights. I added some weights to make it a bit heavier, and they helped. Then I realized that using weights may not be the answer because there was no way of mounting it. So I got a small rig cage, and I said I can mount weights on the small rig cage, and that is why I ordered one, because I could use rubber bands and mount weights, but it wouldn't look nice and it wouldn't look professional, especially in public. So, and people will think there's either I don't know how to operate a camera, or there's something wrong with my Weebill-S gimbal, or there's one of the 3 axes is gone off. So that's why I ordered the small rig cage, and it is one of the best things I have done, ordering the small rig cage, because I wanted a small rig cage for other reasons long time ago, but I never got around to ordering it because I was getting involved in all this making YouTube videos. So now I was in a position to order the small rig cage, and let's see. Let me show you all the difficulties I went through and how I solved doing it. Let's unlock everything. There's one lock here. There's one lock here. There is one lock here. Okay, so it's almost difficult to bring it up all the way. Now it's at the extreme point. Let's balance this in. See? It's at an angle. I can't balance it straight. They said my camera is too light, but I think that's not the problem. The problem is the center of gravity is somewhere further out, right? So I can't bring it further than this point out here, right? Because that's the limit. Let me show you. I can't push it. So if this thing was a little bit longer, it would balance it nicely, but it's not. Right? So that was the problem with the so-called small or light cameras, and I had to fix it, because when you switch it on, you know, it's on now. It can hold, but when you start moving it around, see, it starts vibrating because it's straining the motors to balance it. So that was the initial problem I had with a camera that was, let's say, too light. A camera that was too light. Okay. If I had a heavier camera, they claim it would balance easily. At least that's what the shop said. And I think it's not a balancing problem. It's not that the camera is too light. It's just that this arm was too short. If it was a bit longer, I could have done it. Here was a Steadicam, whatever they call it, that I bought, only $10 US from China, and this was absolutely useless, right? But it had one thing: it had these weights, right? So let me take out these weights and test it on. Now, if the camera is too light, it will fall off, right? If I could, if I could move the camera a little bit more inside. That means I've changed the center of gravity, right? So now it looks a bit more balanced, but slightly to this side. Now that is a much better balanced camera, right? Because of the weight. I mean, I didn't try to fine-tune the balancing, because there was nothing to hold it from falling off. Yeah? Now that's even better, right? Now if I switched it on, where is this? Now if I switched it on, okay, it's on, and see, it's not vibrating. It's perfectly balanced. So now I needed something else that would help me balance the camera. The whole idea being I can use this gimbal for the so-called light cameras, right? So let's switch it off. It's still balanced, but let's see if it's really balanced. See, it's not really balanced. I haven't balanced it for center of gravity. Now let's see if it's not balanced. This weight has brought the center of gravity too low, so now it's this part of the balancing is a bit more difficult, and let me see if I can change it, adjust it. The center of gravity has reshifted a bit inside. Then I can balance it on this Weebill gimbal. Okay, now let me take it down. How much of a difference the weight was making. I'm using a screwdriver. They used a pen. They use a coin in their videos, but I will show you why a screwdriver has its advantages. This thing is a real pain to put in, because you have to bring the screw here and screw it in before it can slide across. I wish they had some other better design. Can you see? There's a height adjustment. I've set it up. You see, this is why the two screws are here, and the height adjustment for the camera is here. You can raise the camera just this much, about a centimeter higher or half an inch higher. So now you can raise it in. So this is the reason why I use a small screwdriver. Can you see? The small screwdriver can go in. A coin can't. So the advantage of using a small screwdriver, I can mount the camera at a raised level, but it hasn't helped with the, let me just bring it all the way out. So it helps a little bit by raising it because of the weight, additional weight, but it's still not balanced. It's slightly at an angle, still at an angle. It's not level. The camera is not level. So the next thing was, I figured out that it was not the weight of the camera but the center of gravity. I have to move the center of gravity out a bit, maybe 1 centimeter or 2 centimeters or half an inch to 1 inch out, to see so that the camera will balance properly. Okay, so let me fix that one in. I've taken out the camera, and it's very fast if I just have one screw instead of 3 screws to handle, right? Now I take out my lens, and place the cage, small rig cage. It's a wonderful gadget because as you can see, there are lots of holes here. The tripod normally goes here. Now I can move the tripod or the weight I'm using, or this balancing point, this point, I can offset it rather than being under here. I can offset so that it's like that, something like that. So let's put this in. I have to take out the lens to put the small cage in, right? And now screw in. I hope I've got it in position. I've got a small cage in. You see, you've got so many other holes to screw on to put additional weights or microphones or whatever it is. This thing doesn't take an external microphone. Now let's put it in, and let's see if we can balance it. Let's see if we can balance it. Now, since the camera was like that, I have to make it this way, so I cannot put it directly underneath here where the original screw was. I have to mount it here or here. Okay, so let's mount it there. I had it the wrong way around, so now let's see. Let's move this a little bit back in. Okay. I've adjusted it so it's horizontal. Now the next thing is to adjust this direction, and that is by releasing this. Did I raise it too much? That's great. Okay, that's great. So now I can lock this, and let's look at this guy. Okay, that's also balanced. This thing is very tricky, very easy to lose. If they had a fine screw to lock, then when you turn the screw you can move up and down. That would be so much easier to balance. Hopefully the next models have that. Brilliant. Okay, now let's lock this side and adjust this side. Okay, so now we know that it was this axis that was causing that problem. So let's unlock both. Let's switch it on. See, there's no vibration. Balance. Who said the camera was too light? Who said my camera was too light? Actually, it was not the lightness of the camera, but actually the center of gravity had to be shifted to one side, so that the camera had to be shifted out a bit further out, so that the center of gravity was a little bit off. And because this length is too short for the light camera like this, so because the lens is standard to all cameras, Sony cameras, but the body is smaller and smaller and smaller. The more it shrinks, the more you have to align vertically to the center of gravity of where the lens is. That will offset, the body will offset that center of gravity slightly off, right? So now that I have used a cage, now let me switch it off. Now that I'm using a cage, it's very well balanced. And if I wanted to, I could have put extra weights. And with a cage, I can actually screw in the weights, right? So let me conclude by telling you that if they tell you your camera is too light for the Weebill-S gimbal, don't believe them, because your camera is slightly off center. The center of gravity cannot be extended out all the way, because this arm, it's a bit short for very light cameras. If they made it a bit half an inch longer or an inch longer, this camera could be balanced on the Weebill-S gimbal. How well balanced it is, right? So I hope you realize how important a small rig cage is for light cameras. And in conclusion, the Weebill-S gimbal can be used on light cameras to balance them. So now you know the Zhuyin Weebill-S gimbal can be used with light cameras, provided you use a small rig cage and adjust the center of gravity to probably to the right. I mean, depending on which way you're looking at the camera, either you are in front of the camera or the back of the camera, but just shift it a little bit with a cage and you can balance it beautifully. The next video will be something even more interesting. Wait and see. Wait and see.